So it's those, and then the finding your perfect cup for the dabbler is what, will bring them in and to say, oh wow, I had this great experience. I could go in and I could work with a barista, and she told me that there's this about this roast and that about this flavor. And also with the in-store barista, you'll be able to try the different roasts and different flavors as well, and that it sort of creates this great story and personal experience that then they'll go and they'll share with their friends.
So you're saying that any person on your spectrum could potentially be that coffee person in the friend group? Is that
Yes, in some ways it's going to happen naturally. Like people are just naturally going to be more inclined to share the information they hear. But we're hoping that by targeting the whole spectrum, that you're going to find the one person who's going to go in and have a really awesome experience and maybe learn something new. And they walk out and they go and talk to their friends, and the first thing they say is, I just had this awesome experience at Pete's. They made me this custom cup, and it was really cool. I got to try all these different things. And that's how you kind of spread the word and incorporate the entire group of friends.
And last question, do you, and I'm sorry, lots of ideas and some really interesting ones, do you have ideas that reach outside of the cafe or event itself? Like, are there, because I'm thinking some clueless people probably don't wander into a cafe if they're not coffee people yet. So is there a way to sort of catch them out in the world and get them interested? Or what do you think would be the most efficient way to do that, or your ideas?
From the ideas we have, it would probably be larger sort of communal events as one example, where they might feel attracted to go, even though they might not be interested in the coffee per se. But then also just sort of having the tastings, for example, being out on the college campuses and having this exposure while just walking might also provide an easy way for them to get into this.
I think also, so having those menus at the Mid-Express store, the convenience store, where maybe that clueless coffee person normally goes, is sort of how that would reach out, that would expand the word of Pete's. So that's sort of why we created that menu as well, because it simplifies what coffee may be.
Oh, because those locations are in places they're passing through.
Right,
anyway.
right.
I see. Yeah, yeah. Okay.
Exactly.
Cool.
Good.
All right.
Let's take a very short break, 2 minutes.
Okay, I'm doing that. Let's go. So exciting.
We had like this. It's a tough go. We were both on that phone. Yeah.
Yes, the rest of
I think we're gonna do a good job.
Yeah.
You guys ready?
So ready.
Can we get that power seconds?
Oh yeah, we can
Power.
power. It's going out.
We also did that.
They break and they
Yep. Anyone else grab a second?
Thank you. I wondered if it was. No. Yeah, I don't
Greg and I.
That shit, kid.
Let's do it, boys.
luck.
I know.
Thank you.
Alright, is everyone back or?
No.
Still waiting on a few?
We're waiting for Dave. Missing Dave.
That's important.
You're like the Oscar Awards seat filler when someone goes up to the podium.
Like, maybe they have one.
Yeah. So you don't see him in the seat.
Some random.
When people go, yeah, they hire people to do like models.
Yeah.
Because
Because they don't want like empty seats when they get
Yeah.
like if somebody goes up to get there. It's a claim to fame, but
When you sit down,
see, we don't even need the slide.
all right, so.
We're all set?
Yes.
Alrighty.
That's fine.
Anyone who isn't into your being here?
I think it might be the farthest one.
This one?
No, to the.
How was that?
Perhaps, maybe, no.
Oh, that's download. Okay. Yeah.
There it is, there it is.
There we go.
But we're not on the first slide right now. There we go.
You there now?
Well,
There it is.
All right. Hello, everyone. Hello, judges. My name is Kyra Gray,
I'm Greg Conrad. I'm Max Lieblich.
And I'm Will Gifford.
and we are incredibly excited to be here today to tell you about what we believe is the best strategy to market towards those tricky millennials that no one seems to be able to kind of grasp. So lucky for you guys, we are millennials, and what we have found in our fieldwork and research is that millennials seem to care about these three core values, which we like to call our 3 C's: convenience, community, and commitment. So why do we start with convenience? We heard time and time again in our fieldwork, oh, I just go to Starbucks because it's across the street from my apartment. Oh, I go to Pete's because it's next to my exercise studio. The foremost priority of the millennial day-to-day coffee drinker is that the coffee that they're consuming is going to be conveniently located for them. Secondly, community. Millennials love to share experiences. We now live in an age with this weird phenomenon of having 1,500 friends on Facebook, yet we've never felt more alone, and thus we crave these authentic in-person experiences more than ever. So lastly, we come to commitment. We don't really need to tell you guys about commitment. You guys have been committing yourselves to quality coffee since Alfred Pete came and brought those amazing beans to America, but we want the millennials to know about the commitment to good quality. Now, Alfred Pete had a coffee journey which he began when he brought those beans to America in 1966. But what we want you guys to understand is that every individual you pour a cup of coffee for every day has a coffee journey as well, and that had to start somewhere.
So where does this coffee journey start? So basically, we like to call it the Little Pete's. It's the start of the coffee journey. And after talking to multiple people, having phone interviews, I talked to at least half of Kyra's friends, we gathered the insight that 2 things. Millennials start drinking coffee junior or senior of high school, and they're creatures of habit. So before they get that Dunkin' Donuts cup or that Starbucks cup in their hand, we need to put a good cup of Pete's coffee in their hand from the get-go. Now, how do we tap into the high school market? I know we're moving to the East Coast, but we weren't really sure where we wanted to go. So my colleagues brought up this idea of a boarding school, but how many boarding schools could there be? Wow. There's actually a lot more boarding schools than I had ever thought. So how can we make Pete's convenient in the boarding schools? We did a little research, and we realized that there's a loophole in the boarding school process. What happens is students leave campus and they try to go get coffee. They go to Starbucks, they go to Dunkin's, they come back, they bring the boarders with them. It's a huge liability and a problem. So what the teachers are trying to do in boarding schools after a series of conversations is basically trying to build their own coffee shops or coffee stands in the schools. So what we want to do is we want to bring Pete's into those schools and try and set the standard for coffee drinking for these high school millennials. Next is community. We want to foster community, and what better community than a prep school? It's a tight-knit community. People live together, they eat together, they study together. It's just the perfect opportunity to have a Pete's coffee in your hand, whether it's a student-to-student relationship, teacher-to-student relationship. It just kind of builds that morale around that cup of Pete's coffee that we're looking for. And finally, commitment. Now we know Pete's is committed to making the best cup of coffee possible, but what we're asking is to be committed to the customer. So high schoolers aren't going to have that dark roast palate that the baby boomers have. What we need is those bridge beverages. We need the Javiva. We need the iced coffee. We need to bring those into the prep school and get them drinking coffee from a young age. Now, Pete's... So now, Pete's needs this boarding school, but the truth of the matter is, we don't only need this market, but this market needs Pete's coffee.
Hello. So where do we go from here? Well, hopefully all of our young Peatniks are going to college. A very exciting time, the most exciting 4 years of their lives. And also, conveniently enough, the middle stage of our Peatniks coffee journey. We know there's going to be a lot more variety to the coffee they have access to, but our main goal in this stage is to have a presence. We want to be in their lives in some way, shape, or form. We want to be there for them when they're studying late at night, when they're pulling all-nighters, when they're working hard, when they're a little bit hungover in the morning. We want them to have a Pete's coffee cup in their hand. We want them to associate their college experience with Pete's coffee. And how are we going to do that? We're going to do that by looking at convenience, our 3 C's again. And what we're going to be looking at is we're going to be looking at college cafes. We want there to be some kind of presence there. We want there to be Pete's coffee being poured in wholesale locations, and we want there to be Pete's coffee in cafeterias. We're also looking at community. We're trying to keep the same Pete's community that Greg was able to tap into in the high school phase, but we're not happy with that. We're not satisfied with that. We want to expand. We want to be talking to their friends. We want to be talking to their friends of their friends. We want that word of mouth advertising that Pete's is so well known for to be coming in here. We want people to be coming together around a shared experience of coffee. Finally, commitment. We want Pete's coffee to be being poured into Pete's cups. This is a big thing for us because 3 of us are Middlebury students, and up at Middlebury there is Pete's coffee. It's being sold in cafe locations. That Pete's coffee is being poured into Vermont coffee cups. The hard work and dedication and love that you guys put into your brand is being mistakenly associated with one of your competitors' coffees. That's not acceptable. We want people to know that the fantastic cup of coffee that they have in their hand is yours. Alrighty, and so our college, there it is. Our college cohort is growing and growing, right? And then, eventually, what happens? Well, hopefully, they graduate. This is the post-grad phase that we're talking about now. This is the final step on our coffee journey for all of our young Peatniks. Now at this stage, people are going to be in new places, maybe a new city, maybe a new job, and they're going to be looking for something that's a little bit familiar. Luckily for us, we've been building that familiarity with the Pete's brand for 6-7 years. So we're going to be looking to bring back in all those central insights of ours, those 3 C's, on the retail experience in the real world, really. And we're starting with convenience. Now, the biggest thing when we were talking to the millennials that we went out and met, and Kyra's friends, that we found was that really most millennials, they want to have that good cup of coffee, but they can't or aren't willing to go too far out of their way to get it. So we think that what you guys are doing now is an excellent approach, that you need to keep moving. We're looking, since we've been focusing on the East Coast, you need to keep moving into those East Coast cities and have a presence there that isn't super ubiquitous, but is accessible. Ooh, no way to this. Now, second of all, in terms of convenience, we also thought that digital ordering of some sort might be a good thing. This could possibly be an app, as many of our peers have mentioned. This could be an iPad near the door that people can come in and put their order in so they don't have to stand in line and it comes up very quickly. But that digital ordering would also add to the convenience and speed of the process. Now, our second C is community. There are a variety of ways that you could kind of improve the community feel in your retail space. One of the many ideas that we had was putting in larger tables with more seating so that there are more opportunities for those chance interactions that can create memories and new friendships. Another idea that we had was in some of our flagship stores in different cities to have a picture wall or a Polaroid wall. So when people have started coming in for a while and they start to become regulars, regular beatniks as it were, they are offered it is offered that they can take a picture of themselves and put it up on the community picnic wall to recognize it. Finally, we have commitment. Now, we've mentioned commitment before, and it's basically more of the same. We want to make sure that Pete's is conveying their commitment to strong coffee in their branding. And one great idea we had for this was printing little factoids or stories about Pete's on the heat sleeves of the cups that people can check out when they get their coffee.
So we believe, and hopefully we've convinced you of this too, that with these 3 values, along with our 3-stage process, is the best way to market to those millennials. You have to establish a relationship, you have to put in those hours and establish that intense and almost contagious loyalty as millennials like to share their experiences. We don't want to change your product, we don't know about roasting coffee, to be perfectly honest. We just want every coffee journey to start with a Pete's cup.
Any questions?
Any questions?
Yeah, if you had to pick, because you guys talked about 3 different life stages, if you had to pick one that you think is most important, if we only do one, which would you, I'm curious, which would you do?
Well, I think the largest market is probably the post-grad market, but I think the one we can speak to most uniquely as a group, partially because of the research that we ended up doing, is the high school market. And if you have any questions on that, we'd be glad to.
Yeah, I think that's the one that primarily you guys haven't tapped into as much yet. I think you're already doing I'd say retail you're doing best, then college, and then I think the boarding school market is probably the most foreign to you guys and maybe the best one to tap into.
But it's also largely a market that hasn't been tapped into by many people. So.
How'd you guys get that insight about boarding schools?
So I actually went to 2 boarding schools, and I called.
That's why I ended up at 2 later, West Coast.
I ended up calling 2 different teachers from each boarding school, and then made a couple phone calls to my friends' boarding schools. And what we decided was like what type of coffee are students drinking, and basically they drink the dining hall coffee. They drink it because it's there. It's usually like not all students like it, but they do drink it. And then the teachers were also very worried about the sign-out situation where day students take people off campus. So it was a big push to have better coffee in these boarding school industries. So I think this is a great opportunity for Pete's Coffee.
Do you have a concern that technology ordering, such as iPads greeting you at the door, will get in the way of your community insight? Like, talk to me
We're
about
hoping
that.
it could be more of an optional thing. There are some millennials who want the shared experience. They want to sit down at the communal table, and that is totally an option to have, like, wait in line with their friends, talk to the barista if they have time to do so. But we did talk to some very, very avid Pete's customers who were like, at 7 a.m. when there's a 10-person line, I want my coffee, I want to go to work. Like, I do not have time. Like, I love Pete's, but I do not have time to spend a lot of time in the actual retail space and in that type of experience. And so we are trying to give, millennials are weird beasts, like they want that shared experience and then they also want to be in and out sometimes. So you have to be flexible and give them the variety of options and variety of experiences that they're looking for.
Cool. Thanks, guys.
Alright, so I think this is are you the last group?
I do so.
Kyra,
Alrighty.
Kyra,
Yeah.
is this your guys' handout?
No. Where's our guys' hand?
Who did we give it to?
Yeah, you got
No, I just didn't know if I was numbering it wrong, so.
Controller, you don't get a controller? Yeah, well, you should punch you. You go for it, guys.
Good idea.
Okay, so So my name is Yuan. Thank you so much for being patient with us. We are the last group.
I'm Cedric.
I'm Max. And I'm Jory.
Okay, capturing the young coffee connoisseur. Today we are here for helping Peat Coffee and Tea to understand how and why and where to appeal young adult to Peat Coffee. In order to do that, we sit up and come up with some idea and insight to redefine our insight and come up with solutions. For Peat Coffee, this is our procedure for come up with insight and idea. First of all, we make hypothesis and do field work by interviewing more than 25 people from different backgrounds, from non-coffee drinker, coffee drink and coffee enthusiasts, and with different locations from coffee shop, retail, and even like in the hotel. And then we do have some professional conference with different people from different background, like director of innovations, marketing consultant, and behavioral psychologist. And then finally we find out some highlighting and relevant insight, and we find out the solution to redefine the insight. And there are some highlighting quotations that we got from coffee enthusiast. His name is Tim and 24 years old.
So as you can see by these two quotes, it leads us to our first insight, which is that I want to know where my food comes from because I enjoy a compelling backstory. So we found that the millennial coffee connoisseur wants to know not only where his food comes from, but who the farmer is who brewed it, where he's from, what his relationship with coffee is, and so we have an idea to deal with that. Our next insight stems from this quote. So used to every brand talking about how homespun they are. Some of the crappiest companies make the same claim. So this kind of highlights that the millennial coffee connoisseur doesn't really care about Alfred Pete's story, journey across to the States, and his beans that he had back then. And it's kind of been muddled in their eyes by the acquisitions of Pete's Coffee and such, and the years since. And they want to have a more modern and authentic feel now. So I do not trust that big corporations are committed to quality. So we developed ways to deal with that as well. Our last insight has to do with this picture, which is actually a picture of the sugar booth up at the Rayleigh's licensed partner Pete's Coffee store, where you can really see it's not up to Pete's standards, is it, right? So we wanted to, our last insight is I want to be able to count on a consistent level of quality at all the company's stores. So across the board, at your retail locations and your licensed partners. So those are our three insights. Here's some of our ideas as to how to deal with this.
Okay, so we have a few ideas that I think we're really excited about that we believe really are going to target the millennial coffee connoisseur in particular. We're not going for millennials across the board. This is the millennial coffee connoisseur. So in taking this interest in a compelling origin story, we have the idea for a cup story. So we take the cups, we put a picture of a farmer from a specific farm, and we express their relationship to the farm and what it is about that farm, the location of the farm, that creates that type of coffee they're drinking. So how does this elevation, this soil, create the floral notes, the sweetness that you taste in this cup? That's the kind of information that's interesting to the millennial coffee connoisseur. This is an idea that I think is kind of a no-brainer, really. The pour-over is really trendy right now, especially among the third wave coffee shops, and it's seen as sort of the way to brew a cup of coffee. But they're time-consuming. A pour-over takes a little while, and people don't want to wait, especially during a morning rush. So our idea is to sell pour-over coffee during off hours. So from a window, maybe like 2 to 5, you offer pour-overs. You can get people who wouldn't normally come and drink coffee in the afternoons, you get them into a Pete's location, and they're going to seek out those Pete's locations because they're offering a pour-over.
The next idea is hosting these roasting and cupping events, not only in the retail stores, but also in mobile sites such as a van that would kind of attack the college campus or bustling community at peak hour. And obviously, these events wouldn't happen all the time, but we think it's important that the target audience that we are focusing on, the Millennium Coffee Connoisseur, really understands how a cup of coffee is brewed and all the effort that goes into it. And we felt that the best way to do that was a first-hand experience. So we think that kind of pushing these forward and making them more available to the millennial is an important idea. The next is kind of stemming off of that, is having CSA drop-offs at Pete's at the retail stores. For those of you that don't know what CSA is, it's community-supported agriculture. And what they do is they collect produce